Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, you've handed us a stack of truly insightful sources, all revolving around a central question for anyone dedicated to track and field. How do we effectively develop young sprinters?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Our mission here is to unearth the most valuable knowledge and practical principles from these materials, directly applicable for experienced track and field coaches like you listening.
It's a fascinating intersection, isn't it? It bridges raw athletic potential with, well, the intricate stages of human growth and psychology. We'll be pulling from a comprehensive guide by Australian Athletics, delving into sports psychology, and even examining real-world case studies from sprint powerhouses like Jamaica.
That's right. So whether you're working with athletes from their early teens up to maybe their junior college years, this deep dive is designed to offer a robust roadmap for long-term success. Okay, let's unpack this, beginning with the fundamental building blocks of speed technique.
Where it all starts.
Our sources strongly underscore that developing efficient sprint technique early is, well, non-negotiable for long-term success in the 100 meters and 200 meters. From a coaching perspective, what are the core elements we absolutely need to focus on?
At its heart, it's really about efficient mechanics. We're talking about maintaining a tall, relaxed posture.
Okay.
And powerful front-side mechanics. Imagine actively driving the knees and swinging the arms forward, almost like you're attacking the ground in front of you.
Right.
The goal is to apply force sharply and vertically into the ground, keeping ground contact brief as athletes transition to top speed. The key principle here for you as a coach is instilling these fundamentals without stifling an athlete's natural rhythm.
Something interesting that emerged from these sources was a discussion about, how much a coach should intervene on a natural running style. Where's that delicate balance?
That's a huge point.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a crucial balance coaches must strike. While some individual quirks are perfectly fine, maybe even beneficial, certain basics are universally agreed upon for efficiency. A neutral head position, high hip position, and a dorsiflexed foot on contact, foot pointing up as it comes through.
Right.
However, rigidly enforcing one single model can really backfire if it disrupts an athlete's natural rhythm. So it's about instilling those foundational mechanics, but always with an individualized approach. You need to integrate technique work into regular training with tailored cues for each athlete.
Okay, that makes sense. So once those foundational mechanics are becoming solid, what about acceleration? That's a distinct skill, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a phase unto itself. Whether from blocks or a three-point stance, young sprinters need to drive explosively with a low body angle, really pushing horizontally for those critical first several steps.
Yeah.
The common pitfall coaches need to watch for is athletes popping up too soon. It kills that horizontal drive.
Yeah.
They should gradually rise into an upright posture over approximately 30-50 meters, ensuring a smooth transition where hips and shoulders rise together. Drills like 20-30 meter block starts and sled pulls are fantastic for reinforcing this.
Okay.
While different coaches use different cues, some say drive knees up, others push the ground back, the objective remains identical. Powerful extension through the hips, knees, and ankles with a continuous forward lean.
And then comes maximal velocity or top speed. That's where the race really separates, right?
Indeed, that's the money phase, you could say. This phase typically kicks in around 30-60 meters into a 100-meter sprint. By this point, the sprinter should be fully upright, with head, hips, and foot stacked optimally at ground contact. The emphasis shifts dramatically to quick, active foot strikes directly under the center of mass, high stride frequency, and that efficient cyclical leg moves, think high knee recovery, followed by a downward pawing action.
Yep.
For coaches, training upright sprint mechanics diligently is paramount, as research strongly correlates maximal velocity with 100-meter performance. You need that top-end speed.
And even when they're giving it their absolute all, relaxation remains critical. How do you teach that paradox? It sounds counterintuitive.
It's a paradox, but a vital one. Athletes must learn to run incredibly fast while staying loose in the face, shoulders, and hands. Tension is a speed killer.
Right.
While technical drills like A-skips, B-skips, and wicket runs are valuable, the consensus is they must closely resemble actual sprint movements to truly be effective. You can't just do drills in isolation.
Makes sense.
A core principle for coaches here is a competency-based progression. Ensure good form at simpler or sub-maximal levels before increasing intensity. Master it slow before you go fast.
Okay.
And speed sessions should always include full recovery, stopping immediately at the first sign of technical breakdown to prevent bad habits from setting in. Quality, quality, quality.
What about race modeling? This isn't just about pure speed, is it? It's about how you use that speed throughout the race.
Precisely. This is an often underappreciated technical aspect for coaches to integrate. It's about teaching athletes how to distribute effort for optimal performance across the entire race distance.
Okay.
In a 100-meter, they learn to accelerate violently but patiently, driving hard but resisting the urge to rise too early,
Yeah.
and then transition smoothly into max velocity.
Violently but patiently. I like that.
Yeah, it captures it well. For the 200-meter, navigating the curve is vital. It's counterproductive to blast the entire bend at 100%. You just tie up.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches often teach a pattern like 50 meters of controlled acceleration, roughly 40 meters of relaxed high speed running on the curve, then a re-acceleration into the home straight. Practicing segmented runs and flying 100-meter sprints helps simulate this race distribution.
And it sounds like this helps with the mental game, too, maybe reducing some of that pre-race anxiety.
It certainly does. A clear race plan can significantly boost an athlete's confidence, replacing what some call paralyzing anxiety with a sense of control and purpose. Coaches should encourage experimentation to find each athlete's optimal race model, fostering independence and ownership. In essence, technical development is a continuous, layered process, moving from coordination fundamentals to fine-tuning acceleration and max speed, all integrated with crucial race execution skills. The practical takeaway here for you is that individualized cues and constant refinement are absolutely key.
Right. Okay. So technique is covered. Let's move on to the engine itself.
Beyond the technical blueprint, physical preparation is the absolute bedrock for young sprinters. A well-structured, long-term strength and conditioning program is essential.
Mm-hmm.
The core idea is developing the ability to produce and absorb high force quickly, which is non-negotiable for elite sprinting. For coaches, power, strength, and sprint-specific endurance are the primary physical determinants to cultivate.
So let's address a common misconception. Strength training for young athletes isn't just a myth then, is it? People used to worry about stunting growth or something.
Not at all. That's largely outdated thinking. Properly supervised weight training, adapted to their developmental stage, demonstrably improves muscle, bone, and tendon strength.
Okay.
The progression typically starts with bodyweight movements and core stability. Things squats, lunges, push-ups, and pull-ups, foundational stuff.
Right.
Then light weights are gradually added, eventually progressing to barbell lifts such as squats, deadlifts, and maybe even Olympic lifts by mid to late teens. The absolute rule for coaches here is ensuring perfect technique first, always.
Technique over weight.
Always. Stronger muscles, particularly in the quads, glutes, hamstrings, and calves, directly translate to more explosive acceleration and significantly improved injury resilience. It's foundational.
Are there debates among coaches on the best types of strength exercises for sprinters, or is it fairly settled?
Oh, there are definitely different philosophies. Some coaches heavily utilize traditional heavy lifts for maximum strength.
Like powerlifting style?
Sort of, yeah. Others favor Olympic-style lifts for power and coordination, and many integrate plyometrics for reactive strength. Often it's a smart combination of these.
Okay.
Best practice really involves periodization, using more general strengths work in the off-season and gradually shifting to more explosive high-velocity exercises as the competition season nears.
Makes sense.
There's also some interesting emerging evidence that very heavy resisted sprints, like sled sprints, can build strength in a sprint-specific posture, potentially reducing the need for quite as much gym work. So coaches should weigh these options based on individual athlete needs and program goals.
And then, of course, there's speed itself. How do coaches actually develop that raw, unadulterated speed in young athletes? It's not just about lifting weights.
No, absolutely not. Developing speed and speed endurance is central to any sprint program. Short maximal sprints, say 10, 60 meters, should be a year-round staple, and this is crucial with absolutely full recovery.
How long are we talking for recovery?
We're talking maybe 2-4 minutes for a 30-meter sprint and 6-8 minutes, maybe even more, for a 60-meter sprint. You need to be fully regenerated.
Wow. Okay, so patience is key there.
Huge. For younger teens, coaches should keep volumes low, for example, maybe 4-6 reps of 30 meters, and relentlessly focus on quality and mechanics over quantity. As athletes mature, volumes can incrementally increase, but quality always trumps quantity. If form breaks down, the session is simply done. Pack it in.
Protect the technique.
Exactly.
And to maintain that speed in longer races, especially for the 200-meter sprinters.
That's where specific endurance comes in. For 100-meter specialists, this might mean occasional 120, 150-meter sprints or maybe ins and outs, alternating fast and float sections to extend their ability to relax at high speed.
Okay.
200-meter sprinters obviously need longer repeats, maybe 150, 250 meters at high intensity. But these intense runs should be used sparingly, particularly for younger athletes, due to the high fatigue factor and the potential for technique erosion.
Yeah.
You don't want to hammer them too often.
So it's not just about getting strong and fast in a straight line. Overall athleticism plays a massive role too, especially for the younger athletes, correct?
That's a fundamental principle, absolutely essential. General athleticism and coordination laid the crucial groundwork in the early teens, roughly that 13, 15-year-old window.
How do you build that?
It means developing balance, agility, and rhythm through varied movements. Think warm-up games, relays, low hurdles, various jumps, maybe even encouraging them to engage in other sports.
Right.
The period from roughly ages 7-14 is often cited as a golden window for coordination development. The evidence overwhelmingly supports building a broad base of skills for youth, making them better overall athletes who can specialize more effectively later on.
So don't push the specialization too early.
Exactly. For coaches, actively avoiding over-specialization too early is key to preventing plateaus and burnout down the line. Build the athlete first, then the sprinter.
And finally, under the physical umbrella, injury prevention. How do coaches integrate that actively into the physical plan? It seems crucial with sprinters.
It is. Flexibility and mobility are crucial for achieving those ideal technique positions without unnecessary strain. Dynamic stretching and sprint drills in warm-ups are excellent, as are specific stretches for areas prone to tightness like hip flexors and hamstrings, and then there's prehabilitation exercises. The Nordic hamstring curls, various core stability work, calf raises, these strengthen commonly injured areas proactively.
Prehab, not just rehab.
Precisely. In essence, physical preparation needs to be holistic and progressive, continually adapting to the athlete's growth and training age. Coaches must constantly balance challenge with preventing breakdown. It's also worth noting, as you guide these athletes, that younger adolescents are more prone to those growth-related injuries. Think Sever's heel pain or Osgood Schneider's knee pain.
Right, traction injuries.
Exactly. While older teens tend to get more adult-like muscle pulls and sprains from higher intensity, training needs to adjust accordingly. And coaches should definitely educate female athletes on avoiding relative energy deficiency in sport, REDS, which is that energy imbalance that can impact long-term health and performance.
Okay, lots to consider on the physical side. Let's shift gears a bit. Our sources really highlight that fostering a strong psychological skill set in young sprinters can make all the difference. What are the key areas for coaches here?
Yeah, this is huge. It's about cultivating a supportive yet appropriately challenging environment that actively promotes mental toughness, resilience, and, ideally, a deep love for competition.
That sounds like a balancing act.
It is. The challenge for coaches is to hit that sweet spot, avoiding both too little challenge, which leads to boredom, and too much overwhelming pressure, which leads to burnout or anxiety. Psychological development needs to be woven into daily interactions, not just, a separate talk once a week.
How do we, as coaches, keep them consistently motivated? Teenagers aren't always the easiest group.
True. Motivation for youth truly thrives on enjoyment, a sense of improvement, and belonging within the group. Coaches should strive to make training engaging, incorporate variety, and consistently celebrate progress, even the small wins.
Okay.
Setting realistic, achievable goals, like improving a block exit technique or shaving 0.2 seconds off a 60-meter time, provides concrete, positive reinforcement. But perhaps the most powerful fuel is cultivating intrinsic motivation, the athlete's internal love for the sport itself.
So it comes from within them.
Exactly. This means encouraging a sense of ownership, involving them in decisions about their training where appropriate, and letting them discover their own reasons to strive, beyond just winning medals or pleasing the coach.
And building their confidence, especially after setbacks. What's the coach's direct lever here? Confidence seems so fragile sometimes.
It can be. Confidence, for sprinters, often stems directly from confidence. As their skills improve and results begin to appear, their belief in their abilities naturally grows. Coaches reinforce this by consistently highlighting specific improvements. Look how much better your start is, and framing competitions as opportunities to demonstrate gains rather than high-stakes judgments.
Right. Less pressure, more opportunity.
Precisely. Teaching a growth mindset is invaluable here, helping athletes view setbacks not as failures, but as learning opportunities. What can we learn from this race? Techniques like positive self-talk, visualization, and gradually increasing challenges in training can significantly bolster self-confidence. And yes, gradual exposure to higher-level competition is also key for coaches to manage strategically. Don't throw them to the wolves too soon.
Sprint races can be incredibly intense psychologically. How can coaches help manage that competitive anxiety when the stakes feel high?
It's about preparation and routine. Coaches can establish clear pre-race routines, maybe a standard warm-up sequence, specific mental cues like powerful push, then relax, and simple deep breathing exercises.
Practicing the routine.
Exactly. Practicing these consistently in training builds confidence for big moments. It makes the unfamiliar feel familiar. Encouraging a focus on running their own race rather than fixating on rivals also helps athletes feel more in control.
Tunnel vision.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
This approach builds mental toughness, which isn't about never feeling nerves, everyone feels nerves, but about responding positively and performing well despite them. And crucially, after a disappointing race, a constructive approach of reviewing what went well alongside what can improve turns a setback into a stepping stone, rather than a reason to doubt themselves.
That constructive feedback loop is vital.
Absolutely.
Now, I found it truly fascinating how much the sources emphasized tailoring training to an athlete's biological maturation, not just their chronological age. What does that mean for coaches in practice? This seems like a really key practical point.
This point is absolutely critical and often overlooked. You could have two 15-year-olds standing side by side who are vastly different biologically.
Yeah.
Peak height velocity, PHV, that phase of fastest growth usually occurs around 11-12 for girls and 13-14 for boys. But there's huge individual variability. Early maturers often have a short-term advantage in youth competitions, which can be quite deceptive for coaches assessing long-term potential.
So winning everything as a junior doesn't guarantee senior success then, does it?
Not at all, and the data is quite stark on this. Studies show that many top youth sprinters don't become top seniors. Only about 17-21% of U18 top performers reach the top 50 internationally as adults. It's a surprisingly low number.
Wow.
Later developing athletes often continue improving well into their 20s, frequently overtaking those early stars. Coaches absolutely must cultivate immense patience and maintain a long-term vision. Recognize that an athlete who is smaller or slower at 15 might simply be a late bloomer with huge potential down the road.
So the key principle.
The key principle here for you is, don't overhype or overwork an early winner. Ensure they're solidly developing fundamentals, not just relying on their early physical advantage. And be patient with the late bloomers.
How can coaches practically monitor this biological maturation on the track without, lab tests?
It doesn't have to be complex. Simple tracking of height and weight can be incredibly informative, revealing those growth spurts. A growth of more than 7 centimeters in a year, especially around that expected PHV age, is a kind of red flag for increased injury risk.
Right.
Coaches might then respond by reducing high-impact plyometrics, avoiding excessive hard surface mileage, maybe adding an extra recovery day. Also, be aware of that adolescent awkwardness, temporary clumsiness during growth spurts, and be prepared to revisit fundamental movements and coordination drills. Don't assume they've lost skill. Their limbs might just be growing faster than their brain can coordinate.
That's a great point.
And as we touched on briefly before, injury patterns differ. Younger kids get those growth plate issues. Older teens get more muscle strains. Training adjustments are essential. Plus, the gender differences become more pronounced in late teens. Males gain significant muscle mass due to testosterone, impacting strength potential, while females develop strength more gradually, maybe needing more focus on maximal strength training and technical efficiency to keep progressing. Coaches need sensitivity around the menstrual cycle and REDS, as we mentioned. And psychosocial factors differ too. Body image pressures might affect girls, while overconfidence might affect boys. The core principle always comes back to training age and biological age should consistently guide your coaching decisions more than just their birthday.
Okay, that biological age piece is crucial. Let's talk about putting it all together, the strategic planning.
Right. Planning a young sprinter's career is truly like constructing that multi-story building we talked about. Strong foundations in the early years are what truly support peak performance later. This is where periodization becomes vital, structuring training into logical phases that account for their evolving maturity and have different objectives at each developmental stage. It has to integrate the technical, the physical, and the psychological elements throughout the year.
The sources outline distinct stages of long-term athlete development, or LTAD. Can you walk us through how coaches should approach each of them practically?
Certainly. For coaches, these stages provide a clear but flexible roadmap. Think of it this way. First, around 13-15 years, train to train. The emphasis here should be on broad athletic development and learning skills, not heavy specialization.
Okay.
A periodized year might include a general preparation phase focusing on basic strength, endurance, and mechanics. Then a specific preparation phase with more sprint-specific training and maybe some low-key competitions, a short competition phase, and definitely active rest. Volume increases gradually, intensity very cautiously. The principle here is fostering general athleticism and skill acquisition, maybe just one main peak competition or even none. Encourage variety, let them try hurdles or jumps.
Build the athlete.
Exactly. Then, moving to 16, 18 years, train to compete. Now, athletes typically begin to focus more on a primary event group, like sprints. Training becomes notably more sprint-specific, and the level and frequency of competition rise. Double peaks within the annual plan, maybe an indoor and outdoor season, become common. Microcycles, the weekly plans, become more sophisticated. You might introduce elements of block periodization, concentrating on one or two things like acceleration or max speed for a few weeks, though a hybrid approach often works best, keeping all skills ticking over. Individualization becomes absolutely crucial at this stage, addressing specific weaknesses. Volume and intensity increase, but crucially, not simultaneously, and coaches must factor in academic load during planning exam periods matter.
Big time.
Finally, around 19-20 years, train to win at the junior level. This is really the transition towards senior level training. Periodization looks much more like what senior athletes do, with clear annual plans targeting specific junior championships like World Juniors.
Right.
However, managing the junior to senior transition here is particularly tricky. Training content is highly specialized. Monitoring, tracking fatigue, performance, etc. is intensified. There's that ongoing debate between short to long versus long to short approaches.
Which way do most lean now?
Most modern sprint coaches lean towards short to long. For 100-meter or 200-meter athletes, build the speed first, then extend the endurance. Ultimately, the plan at this stage is refined through continuous trial and error, becoming highly specific to that individual athlete.
So the plan is less of a rigid template you print out in September and follow no matter what, and more of a flexible guide, would you say?
Precisely. That's a common pitfall for coaches, sticking rigidly to a beautifully written plan, even when the athlete's condition clearly doesn't warrant it. Periodization is a powerful guide. However, it must be married with your coaching intuition and continuous feedback from the athlete.
Gotcha.
If an athlete is showing signs of excessive fatigue, has a persistent niggle, or is simply not responding well, you have to be willing to back off, delay the planned intensity. If they happen to peak earlier than expected, you adjust the plan. It's a living document, not scripture.
And how does competition planning fit into this long-term strategy? Finding the right number of races seems tricky.
It's highly strategic. Too many meets can lead to excessive recovery periods or tapers, meaning not enough actual training gets done. Too few means less vital race experience and hardening.
Finding the balance.
Exactly. For the 13, 15-year-olds, perhaps 4 to 6 serious meets plus some local practice competitions or time trials are sufficient. For 16, 18-year-olds, maybe that increases to 6, 10 meets. For top juniors aiming for major champs, 18, 20, maybe 10, 15 meets are possible, but always with caution to avoid burnout before they even reach the senior ranks. During competition periods, training volume generally reduces, while technical work and speed work, with lots of recovery, are maintained to ensure freshness for race day. Peaking, when planned for a major championship, involves a gradual tapering of volume and sometimes intensity over 1-3 weeks before the target event.
The sources provide a great example of an integrated annual plan for a 17-year-old. How does that practically illustrate these principles for a coach looking at it?
It's an excellent illustration because it clearly shows the logical flow of phases we discussed. You see the general preparation phase, say July-Sept, focused on foundational strength, mobility, maybe correcting technical flaws identified last season, then specific preparation, incorporating heavier lifts, lots of acceleration work, maybe some speed endurance, and perhaps low-key trials. Then pre-competition, Jan-Feb, shifting focus to max velocity, race modeling, and some lead-up meets, followed by competition phase 1, maybe March for state championships, then a major peak, say April for nationals, preceded by a 10-21-day taper, and finally a crucial recovery transition phase May-June with active rest, maybe trying other activities, and reviewing the season. This example beautifully shows coaches how the physical, technical, and psychological elements need to be interwoven throughout the year, and crucially, how recovery isn't an afterthought, it's deliberately planned as an integral part of the development process.
So what's the ultimate takeaway for coaches when it comes to strategic planning, the big picture message?
Think long-term. Think in quadrennials, or even decades for the truly young ones, not just this month or this season. The critical message is to avoid the temptation of training a youth athlete like a mini-adult purely to win the U16 championship now. Periodization, when used wisely and flexibly, ensures the athlete does the right work for their developmental stage at the right time, arriving at major milestones later on with a complete and robust toolkit, ready to perform when it truly matters most.
Okay, fantastic. Now, beyond the theoretical frameworks and planning models, our sources dive into some real-world case studies of athlete development. What can we learn from models like the long-term athlete development LTAD approach in practice?
Well, LTAD models, which have been embraced by organizations like UK Athletics, really prioritize that balanced development over pushing for early specialization. We see this reflected in the pathways of successful athletes like Dina Asher-Smith or Katerina Johnson-Thompson.
Right, KJT did everything as a kid.
Exactly. They followed pathways that emphasized varied events as youths and had carefully controlled competition schedules. This allowed them to build a broad base and truly peak as seniors. The core idea for coaches following this model is simple. Don't rush the athlete, build the engine, refine the skills patiently, and the performances will come when they're physically and mentally ready.
But what about the Caribbean sprint powerhouses like Jamaica? Their approach seems, well, different. It looks much more intense early on.
It certainly does appear different on the surface. A qualitative investigation highlighted that a fiercely competitive high school culture, epitomized by Jamaica's renowned Champs meet, exposes talented teens to significant pressure and high-intensity racing from a very young age.
Yeah, Champs is legendary.
It is. And this intense competition seems to foster immense motivation and incredible race savvy. It cultivates a deep desire to compete and win. This definitely challenges the more conservative LTAD model by demonstrating that an early focus on competition can indeed lead to success, teaching athletes how to handle pressure and building mental toughness early.
But there must be a downside.
Well, the potential downside, as the sources note, is a higher risk of overuse injuries and dropout for some athletes who can't handle that intensity or who break down. It underscores the importance of individual care and smart coaching, even within such a high-pressure system. It's not necessarily that one system is right and the other wrong, but they have different risks and rewards.
And what about that notoriously tricky junior to senior transition? The data we mentioned suggests it's a major hurdle for many promising young sprinters.
Yeah, the data is sobering. The study by Bocha and colleagues quantitatively illustrates that many top youth sprinters simply don't translate that success into the senior ranks.
Why is that?
It's often attributed to a combination of factors. Maybe early specialization led to burnout or overuse injuries. Maybe they peaked physically very early. Or perhaps life transitions like moving to university or dealing with new pressures derail their progress. We see cases, particularly sometimes with female sprinters, who dominate at 16 or 17 but then struggle by 21 as their peers catch up physically. Some are simply pushed with overly demanding senior training programs too soon, and they plateau by 19 with nowhere left to go physiologically.
So what's the practical advice there?
The sage advice from experienced coaches like Lechiego Malapian, mentioned in the sources, is essentially to hold back advanced training methods until truly needed. If simple fundamental training is still yielding improvements, there's absolutely no need to prematurely increase the complexity or intensity. Legendary coaches like John Smith often spoke of milking each level of adaptation fully before moving to the next stimulus. Don't rush the process.
So it's about not showing all your cards too early, building that capacity over time.
Exactly. Think of Usain Bolt, a perfect example. He was a 200-meter phenom as a youth, but was very carefully managed by his coach, Glenn Mills. Mills famously held him out of the 100 meters until he developed more strength and technical consistency.
Right. He wasn't an instant 100-meter star.
No, he only fully realized that world-beating potential in his early 20s. Conversely, think of the many junior champions who never improved to seniors often. Digging into their history reveals overly intense training loads or the fact they peaked physically much too early. Coaches should keep these compelling examples, both positive and negative, in mind when crafting a talented teen's long-term training plan.
Bringing it all together then, from all these models, theories, and real-life stories, what are the absolute key takeaways for coaches listening right now trying to apply this?
I think the best practices really distill down to these core principles for coaching young sprinters. 1. Prioritize long-term development over short-term wins. Resist the pressure for early results. Remember, early kicks are simply not necessary and sometimes even detrimental for later senior success.
Okay, number 1.
2. Provide a supportive environment with ample but not excessive competition experience. Athletes need to develop a love for racing and learn how to compete under pressure, but without being crushed or broken by it before they mature.
Right, that balance again.
3. Tailor training relentlessly to the individual, always considering their unique biological maturity, their training history, their psychological makeup, their life circumstances. Avoid rigid, one-size-fits-all approaches like the plague.
Crucial.
And 4, continuously learn and adapt. Reflect on what works and what doesn't within your own program. Learn from past successes and failures. This iterative process of observation, reflection, and adjustment is crucial for producing robust, resilient athletes who reach their potential.
By synthesizing these structured development models with those crucial real-world insights and these practical principles, you as a coach can really craft a plan that truly guides a young athlete from their early dreams of glory to, hopefully, one day stepping onto the elite stage prepared to succeed.
Well said.
What an incredible deep dive into the art and the science of coaching young sprinters. From the subtleties of technical development and the strategic build of physical capabilities to the critical role of psychological support and that long game of periodization, it's abundantly clear that coaching elite youth sprinters is far, far more than just writing workouts on a whiteboard.
It is indeed. It's about being a patient guide, almost a mentor, through complex physical and emotional growth. It's about understanding that every single athlete is on their own unique timetable, and recognizing that adaptability and a profound long-term vision are absolutely paramount.
Yeah.
The journey is rarely a straight line, and the ultimate measure of a coach's success with youth athletes isn't really found in a stack of U16 medals, but in the sustained development, the resilience, and the enduring love for the sport they managed to foster over many years.
So what does this all mean for you, the coach, as you head back to the track with your athletes today or tomorrow? Perhaps the greatest challenge, and maybe the greatest reward, lies in fostering not just raw speed, which is exciting, but a lifelong passion for the sport. One that allows an athlete to truly blossom in their own time, armed with sound technique, a strong body, and an even stronger, more resilient mind. So maybe the question to ponder is, what aspect of this deep dive will you reflect on first as you craft your next training plan?